Uniting communities throughout the six. This is Urban Definition with your hosts Sassan, Kareem, and Zayn on CHHA 1610.
Hey guys, it's another episode of Urban Definition. I'm your host, Sassan Mirzai. And if this is your first time tuning in, be sure to join the conversation at urbandefinition.ca. And over there, you'll find links to our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, and anywhere, honestly. Just go there, join in. So this week's a little special because Kareem and Zayn aren't here. This is the first time that they're not here. So it's my first time, honestly, hosting by myself. So I've brought in a special guest, Kevin Corcoran.
That's right. You're on your own today. Well,
but isn't it great?
Yeah, we're going to have a good time.
It's honestly going to be so fun. So, Kevin, what did you do this weekend?
What did I do this weekend? So I had a pretty tame May 2-4. I didn't get up to too much. I got my hair cut in a bathtub. So
wait, what?
I was at a party that wasn't too crazy, but at one point the girl who's hosting it was like, "Your hair's getting really long." And I was like, "Yeah, it is." And she's like, "Do you want me to cut it?" So we went upstairs and she shaved off my hair in her bathtub.
No way.
And then
awesome.
She said, "You have to clean this up now," and left the room.
Wait, what? Did you have a vacuum or something?
No, I swept it up with my hands.
Oh my goodness. That sounds a lot better than
that was the highlight of my night, yeah.
Oh my gosh, like I normally spend every Victoria Day weekend at my cottage. And this weekend was just the worst because it just rained for half the weekend.
That's true. It was not a nice... the weather was not nice, eh?
Yeah, so, like, I'm there. I'm just like... Oh, another thing happened. This story gets even worse. Normally, I would go boating, like, everywhere. But this time, the lake had, like, risen so much that the dock, like, went underwater. And, like, the pathway to the dock and, like, all the boats were, like, out of place. And I was just like... So I'm at a cottage now, no boat ride, just looking at the lake, and I'm not able to go into it, and then suddenly rain.
So that's how horror movies start. You're abandoned at a cottage in the woods.
Exactly. So I was just like, ugh, this is the worst. So I was like, since my cottage is like in Picton, I was like, maybe I'll go check out the sandbanks. The sandbanks are always awesome. And then I go there, and the water has risen so much that like the sandbanks were completely gone. Like, the one thing that whole national park is named for is gone. So you're like, why is this happening?
Yeah, it wasn't raining so terribly where I was. It was raining a little bit, but, like, it wasn't that bad of a time. It just wasn't nice in general, you know?
I just wish it went a little better.
It affects your mood, eh? Like, if it's a nice, bright, sunny day, you're just having a better time no matter what, right?
Yeah, but then... just rain just ruins everything. Like, even barbecue is canceled because, like, can't really make anything over a fire when it's raining.
That's true.
So everything was done in the ovens in the cabin, so I was like, come on. This was, like, the whole point of this outdoor experience, and all gone.
A few minutes ago, while we were driving over here, we saw a man barbecuing out of the back of his pickup truck, like, just pulled over on the side of the road.
And the best part was, he was next to, like, a toilet on the street.
Yeah, he was next to a broken toilet. He was just like having his own tailgate party. Like, I don't know if there actually was a soccer field with kids playing soccer, so maybe he was tailgating for that.
No, but that was like really far away from the school.
It wasn't that close, that's true.
So this guy was just having his own little party. I bet like he was probably in the same cottage.
Honestly, I'm a little envious.
He just like had a really bad time at his cottage.
I think he had like 8 burgers on the grill too, and he was just there by himself.
It was so good though. Oh my goodness. But yeah, we should move on to the news, honestly.
Sure, yeah. So I got a couple news stories here that I wanted to share.
And what would the first one be?
Are you ready for it?
Yes.
All right, let's do it to it. I was just flipping through headlines today, and I just pulled out, like, I don't know how you normally do it here. I'll be totally honest, I've never listened to the show, which is my bad. But I decided to do it my way, which is flip through the news, and choose the most hilarious sounding headlines. This isn't hilarious. This is actually inspiring. So the first story I have for you is about a man who recently graduated from Harvard. His name is Obasi Shah. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly.
Okay.
But he just became the first ever Harvard graduate to graduate with a thesis that is a rap album. So I thought that was very urban. And
just because the show is called Urban Definition.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's really awesome. So he honestly just like gave in an album?
He wrote himself a rap album and submitted it as a thesis. So at this program, it might be, I'm not 100% sure how it works at Harvard, but for this program at least that he was in, you're allowed to submit a work of art. So you can submit a screenplay or a poem or something. I imagine it would have to be a book of poetry instead of a thesis. And he decided that he would best represent himself and what his work is by submitting a rap album. He actually said, the quote is, "I expected that I would not get it and I would just write a normal thesis and life would go on." So like he was expecting to just say like, "I'm going to submit a rap album," and they'd be like, "No, you can't do that." And then he would be like, "Oh, all right, cool. I'll just do what everybody else does." But I guess they were very supportive of it because that's, I mean, he did it. He did it, and now he has a degree.
That's so cool, though. I actually really want to hear that album.
I actually do, too. It actually sounds really inspiring, or really interesting. So each track on the album is from the perspective of a different character. Mm-hmm. So he was inspired by Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales, which is this old medieval text. He says, the fact that it was just these ordinary people telling their own stories just really appealed to me. So, I don't know, man. It sounds pretty fun. I'd give it a listen.
Yeah. I wonder if it's going to be like one of those albums that's like the whole album tells a story.
Like a concept album.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it could be.
That sounds really cool.
I think there's some videos and like SoundCloud links, so you might be able to hear it all online. I'm not.
Okay, then we'll post it up on our Facebook later.
Yeah.
For those at home who actually
sure, let's check it
it
out. Yeah, post that SoundCloud link. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So
all
what
right,
else is happening?
Right. Let's move on, shall we?
Yes.
Okay, this is actually something that I'm a little weirded out by because I take the subway all the time. That's how I get around. I don't drive. I don't have a car, so I'm constantly on TTC. And apparently, a few years ago.
Yeah.
In 2010 and 2011, there was a study that was conducted that showed that the airborne pollutants on TTC platforms and trains were up to 10 times higher than the outside air. So you're walking down the street, you walk into a TTC station, and you're breathing in air that's 10 times worse than the air that you were just breathing when you were outside.
I've heard of this so much, like on Facebook posts, because when I was like reading the comments on these posts, it was like, it's like husbands complaining that their wives are like TTC drivers and they're like putting their lives on the line because the air is so polluted.
Exactly. Yeah. So for riders, it might not be as bad because you're not experiencing it for that long of a time, right? Like you're on the subway for what, like 15 minutes, half an hour at a time, especially if you're riding the subway. If you're on a streetcar, it might be a little bit longer, but if you're on the subway, it's a relatively short time, probably. But people who work there, I mean, they're there constantly, like all day, every day. And like, and I heard, I don't know where I heard this, but I heard that they don't want the TTC workers to be wearing masks.
Oh, like a flu mask.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
exactly
to protect themselves.
Bangkok?
Because it would be alarming to the riders, right? Like if you're imagine that, like you're riding. Your subway pulls up to Finch Station and those guys come in that are sweeping the cars and they have like full like hazmat gear on. Like I would be a little bit worried, right?
I'm like imagining those like old timey tales where like those doctors have those beak masks on.
Yeah, like so those were like plague doctors. Did you know they stuff rose petals?
That's what they put in there?
They put rose petals in the beaks because they thought that somehow like protected, like it purified the air.
Oh,
I guess because it smelled better. I don't know. If I didn't know anything about science, I might think like, yeah, this smells good, so it must be good for me.
That's like what I do to my room or like in my car. I just like Febreze it and my dad's like, you're not solving the issue. You're just like putting perfume over
there's still
the
a dead turtle in the air conditioning duct. You haven't actually solved.
That's why my dad's so against it. He's like, stop masking it and find the problem.
Yeah, I thought when you said that you thought it was going to be those masks, I thought you meant like a diving mask, like one of those big, huge metal spheres with like the tube that connected to the air,
like an astronaut.
Yeah, like an astronaut.
I'm also thinking of those like post-apocalyptic masks with the two like I don't know.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
the
like
cylinders on the sides.
I haven't played the game, but for the logo of like Fallout is one of those.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
what
yeah,
you mean?
yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So what else is happening?
All right. This story is cute.
Okay.
So it's about a sixth grade class in Cut Knife, Saskatchewan, or at least I don't know the town. It's Cut Knife Elementary School in Saskatchewan, and their teacher, his name's James Stone. He decided to take a photo of them and attach it to a helium balloon, and then he launched it into space. And then the balloon takes a picture of basically them from the curvature of the, so you can't actually see them, but from the curve of the Earth. So like you it's a picture before the curve of the Earth from space. And I just feel like recently the NASA programs got cut and all that kind of stuff. So the wonder of space is a little bit lost. I feel like when I was a kid, space was really impressive and amazing and wonderful, and there's all this stuff out there that's really that blows your mind, and we're not exploring space anymore. So I feel like this is a really cool thing to do for kids. And also the other thing that I thought was funny was they were able to the balloon was able to measure the oxygen and carbon dioxide levels, and so I was wondering what that's like in compared to the TTC stations.
I like how you brought it back.
I'm all about that.
That's great. Oh, there's another thing that was happening. The Toronto police? What was going on with
that's
them?
true. So the Toronto police were recently invited to participate in the in New York's Pride Parade, which takes place at the same time as the Toronto Pride Parade. And the reason for that is last year the group Black Lives Matter staged a sit-in, so they were invited to participate in the Pride Parade, and then at some point in the parade, they just sat right down and refused to let the parade go on if the director of Toronto Pride didn't sign an ultimatum that said Toronto police couldn't participate in their uniforms and carrying weapons. And the reason for that is they felt like trans people and people of color weren't comfortable around police officers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously it's supposed to be an inclusive event, and if people don't want to participate because they feel uncomfortable around police officers, I can understand that point of view, but also it's an inclusive event, so why are we excluding police officers? I mean, so anyway, so they... And actually, after this ultimatum was signed, the director said it doesn't hold any water. Like, I just signed it to get the parade moving again.
Yeah.
But then I think there was actually a vote for whatever committee decides that, and they ended up agreeing with it. So, I mean, I think it sucks. I think it's a really silly thing to do. But anyway, New York stepped up to the bat, and they said, listen, we know you can't participate in your parade when wearing a uniform, carrying a weapon, being a police officer, but come on down to ours, and we'll include you. And I think that's a really nice thing to do.
That's actually super cool.
I know.
I hope like that'll like change the way Toronto will see it. They'll be like,
I mean,
yeah, you can join our
I
own
hope so.
parade.
Yeah. Have you ever been to New York? I've never been.
I've never been either, but like I've heard so many like bad stories about it. So I honestly don't want to.
Like, it's dangerous, is what you're saying?
That, and it's just like so overcrowded. But the only thing that's like to my interest, because I can't really shop there because like everything's going to be way expensive because of US dollars and whatnot.
Right.
But food, all the good foods are always in New York. So I was always like, oh my goodness, I need to go there.
That's true. Yeah, I want some New York pizza.
But oh my god, that was really informative. Thanks, Kevin.
Oh, my pleasure. Anytime.
Well, we'll be back after this commercial break.
Urban Definition on CHHA 1610. This is Urban Definition.
Welcome back to Urban Definition. I hope you guys are having fun. Sadly, Zayn and Kareem are still not here, but I am still joined with Kevin Corcoran.
Oh, hi, everybody. How's it going?
So this is the time where Kareem usually says, it's time for Real Talk. So Real Talk is this segment where we basically tell our own opinions, which are not expert opinions, about a question that's going on, like something going on that people are like wondering about. And this week's question is about the MTV Music Awards, because they did something really special. When I heard about this, I was like, wait, what? That's pretty cool. And is it the right thing to do? So the MTV Music Awards, instead of having an award for the best actor and an award for the best actress, they decided to just like get rid of the best actress and just put both actress and actor as one award.
That's right, a gender neutral actor category.
So the question is like, is this the way to go? Is this how the Oscars, the Grammys, and everything? Is this the way to go, or did the actress and the actors have their own special?
Right. Is it the future of entertainment awards? So I was thinking about this because you told me about this earlier.
Yeah.
I actually hadn't heard of it. So the awards were this past weekend, right?
I think it was 2 weekends ago.
2 weekends ago,
like May 8th
right?
or something.
And I believe Emma Watson,
yes,
won for best actress, or sorry, best actor. It's in Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
In a movie, and then for the best actor in a television show, her name is escaping me, but it's the girl who plays Eleven in Stranger Things, if you've ever seen that Netflix series. So it's kind of interesting to me, just off the bat, that both awards were won by women,
Yeah.
even though it's now become a gender-exclusive category, which is especially interesting because there are gender-inclusive categories in the Oscars, like Best Director. And yet, I think there's only been 4 women in the history of the Oscars that have ever won that award.
But here's the thing. Like, Best Director, I can kind of get, because you're not actually on set. You're not, sorry, you are on set. I meant, like, you're not actually performing.
Right, you're not on the screen.
Yeah, so when I see an actor, like, me and you, we both took drama all throughout high school, and whenever we saw our, like, female comrades, like, them acting, I always thought they were more powerful, and they had, like, a bigger job to do, because the actors we had in our program, like, who were women, they were able to like cry in an instant, like they just cried on cue, or they were just like really strong, really tough. And I was always like, guys don't have those kinds of roles.
That's true. And I mean, that's an interesting place to bring it, because I find that you're right. Female actors are always a lot more affecting in movies than male actors, you know?
Yeah. So unless they're like doing, like, let's say an animation, because animations, that's when I see the actors actually like putting a lot of effort in. Like, what's his name? The Simpsons guy.
Castellaneta?
Yeah,
Homer Simpson is who you're talking about.
Yeah, he plays like almost every character on the show. So when I see that kind of acting, I'm like, okay, that's a really good job in acting. This guy is awesome. Or like stuff like that. Like, there's like effort put into it because there's like so many different roles, so many different personalities you have to remember. You have to give them all different feelings. But then when it's just like on set, you're just like, I don't know.
So I think there's what we can think about is why they made that decision. So I think in general, so first of all, the MTV Awards. What is the MTV Movie and TV Awards?
Music
is that what
Awards,
it's called?
I think.
Okay.
Which is kind of silly because it's a movie award.
Well, there's the MTV like Music Video Awards, and then I think there's a separate ceremony, right?
Then I have no idea which one.
Okay.
Whatever.
That's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to say that's 100% true.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's clear to me, like just going by those 2 individuals that won, it's clear to me that the audience is younger, right? Like the people who watch MTV, it's a younger audience than the people who are watching the Golden Globes or the Oscars, right?
Yeah, because like a Beauty and the Beast winning.
Sure, exactly. Yeah, that's of interest to, I mean, a younger group of people.
Yeah.
Like Emma Watson is not going to be nominated for Best Actress for Beauty and the Beast in the next Academy Awards, or maybe she is. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that, but
No, I've heard like a lot of
That's
bad
my
things about her.
prediction.
They're like, oh, she couldn't sing, but I was like, she can sing. What are you guys talking about?
right. So they kind of want to lead the way to the future. Mm-hmm. So the thing that I found out when I was looking this up is I think it was the Emmy Awards used to actually not be gender specific. So up until, I'm going to say the 40s or 50s, there was just one award for Best Actor, and it wasn't separated between men and women.
So it was recently added in.
Well, I mean,
Well,
not
not
recently.
recently, I mean, like-
in the history of these awards, like it's probably closer to the beginning, but yeah, so it was a change that took place, which is interesting to think about. I mean, because why would you do that? And one thing that I think I'm in support of keeping the roles separate is because there needs to be representation for women on screen in film and TV.
Yeah.
Because the fact is, there are so many more roles for white men in movies, on TV, than there are for women or people of color, but that's a different conversation. So I actually work, this is a personal story. So I actually work at an animation studio, I won't say which, and my job is I'm the script coordinator. So I have a lot of meetings with the writers for the scripts for our show, and the fact is they're mostly men. So we're having these meetings and we're in a room and it's mostly men, and there's one woman who's always there, and she's the EVP of the studio. And so she's in all these meetings and she's kind of like the token woman. So she has this token voice. And the fact is the voices that are, because there's just so many more of them, are male. So we get, and since men is the experience that they're familiar with, what we get on the page and eventually on the screen is male characters, because the men are writing their own experience, just because that's what they know.
Yeah.
And so I've actually been given the job, a small part of my job is to basically make a table of all the characters that appear in the show and make sure that half of them are men, half of them are women. And the reason that I was given this job is because that's how it is in real life. That's what I was told. That's the quote. Because it's true. You walk down the street, you see half men, you see half women. And so if we take away that, I'm sort of going on a digression here, but if we take away that category when we're acknowledging performances, we're kind of taking away opportunities to create representation for different kinds of people on the screen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if that category exists, then we know there's going to be opportunities for women to play roles that are interesting and powerful, and not necessarily that. I mean, obviously, female actors won't cease to exist. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, we need them, obviously.
But by virtue of it being there, we're acknowledging that representation is important. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
so
it makes it a lot more fair and just,
yeah. But I mean, I also get where they're coming from. Like, I totally understand the idea behind it. But I'm not sure that we're ready to do that in this point in history.
Still no, really?
Yeah. No, I think it's important. I mean, just by virtue of what I said, it's important to give women those opportunities to represent themselves on the screen and in the arts.
Yeah, I was actually talking to someone earlier about this, and they were like, you should not bring this up. People are going to get really mad at you for saying that it shouldn't be put into one category. But I honestly, I don't know. I just think that maybe they should have had a third category or something, like best actor, best actress, and then best
overall actor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can see both sides of it.
But yeah, we'll talk about this. This is getting really interesting, so we'll talk about it more after the break.
Urban Definition on CHHA 1610. This is Urban Definition.
Welcome back to
Urban Definition.
Sorry about that. Welcome back to Urban Definition. I'm still not used to these boards, but before the break, I was talking about how people were actually saying that I should not be bringing up this question because people are going to get offended. And I was talking about how maybe there should have just been 3 awards, but I guess that is an issue as well, because it'll be kind of like best actor, best actress, and then the third one will be just like best overall of the 2.
My question is for the rules.
The rules?
The rules for that is the best overall actor picked between the best actress and the best actor?
I guess so.
Like, is it a semifinal and then?
I guess that's how I saw it, but I guess that wouldn't work out at all. So I'm honestly not sure, because it's just such a tough thing to talk about because of all this like gender stuff going on, and I don't know. Maybe this is a great step up. Like, it'll make male actors like step up their game, but maybe they already were. And Oh, but I do remember another issue about this that people were telling me about, and it's that male actors are getting paid more than female actors, and that's a huge issue. So maybe this will actually balance it out because now all actors are basically the same, going for the same award and whatnot.
Right. I guess it also depends how important awards are in film.
The awards?
Yeah.
Well, I honestly thought that the awards are super important. Like, even growing up, like, that was, like, just a thing our family would do. Like, when the Oscars were playing or whenever the Grammys were playing, it's like everyone gather around the television.
That's true, yeah. Everyone pops some popcorn, gather around the TV.
We have to see what's good so we know what to watch in the next couple months.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, obviously the opposite argument, because we were both saying for a little while there that we disagree with the decision. But I mean, the opposite argument, which is, I mean, is obvious, but I'll say it anyway, is we don't say, policeman or like fireman anymore. We say police officer, we say firefighter. And that's because we don't, we expect women and men to be able to do the same job, right?
Yeah.
And as you were saying, get paid the same amount.
Exactly.
Conversely to that, when we don't have women and men compete in sports, I mean,
that's true.
There's
and I
the
swear
NBA,
they were, like,
there's the
having
WNBA,
that.
there's in the Olympics, men and women don't compete against one another.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a physical thing. So I mean, what is performance? How do we rate that? And is there a physical aspect to that?
And that's when I was like going on about like people in our program, because like they were just able to like bring out their emotions more, but maybe male actors are able to do it more, but we just don't notice.
I mean, yeah. I think performances by male actors do tend to be more subtle, maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not. I don't want to say that because I don't want to say female actors are incapable of subtlety, because they certainly are. But you don't see, and maybe that's just because it's how we represent ourselves. Is you don't just as a society, we don't see like a lot of men crying on screen or like yelling and screaming, because we just socially we expect men to be more quiet and to express their expressions.
And there's also the
Emotions
thing about
and
like some actors just getting in just because they had like their way into the industry and they weren't like really good actors. Like I remember like Sylvester Stallone. What was his movie called? The boxing movie?
Rocky?
Rocky. Like he wrote that and he like told the directors or the production studio, I forgot which one it was, but he was like, "You're allowed to use my script if I can be the lead." And they were like, "No." And he kept on like trying until the point where they're like, "Okay, we need your script. You can do the lead, whatever."
Right.
And that's like, those are times where I'm like, was he really a good actor, or was it just a really good script? Or,
you know what? I've never seen Rocky, or any of the. There's like, what is there, like 6 sequels at this point? I've never seen a single one.
I've only seen the first one,
so I can't speak to that. Honestly, I can't tell you if Sylvester Stallone's a good actor or not.
Well, he's been in all those other movies too. Like
he does a lot of like
Expendables.
action movies, though, right? Like Rambo. I don't think he's expected to act very well in any of those movies.
That's true. That is very true.
Yeah.
It's just like stuff like that. It just bothers me. Because like you see like female actors working their butts off, but I guess like male actors still like who's a good example of a
what's a male performance that blew you away?
Oh, that's really tough.
Have you seen Manchester by the Sea?
No, I haven't.
So Casey Affleck won the Oscar for I'm pretty sure he won the Oscar for Best Actor this past year.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched the movie, and I mean, yeah, it is a really good performance, and there's some really like dramatic scenes. I guess I won't spoil the movie, but there's some very dramatic scenes. He acts really big in certain parts. So I mean, maybe there are those opportunities for male actors to, dig deep.
Yeah.
But maybe we just don't. It's just not a place that we go to as often in film.
And that's where we can like leave it. And that's when this whole new award is like putting it together, because this new award is basically saying, hey, you two, like men and women, you guys are both up for the same award. Like, work harder, do your best, because now you guys are treated as equals. You guys need to make like the best thing of all time.
Yep. It's passing on to the next generation. We'll see what they do with it.
hopefully it'll stick around. I kind of like this. It's like more of a competition, honestly.
Yeah.
Because now you have like two categories.
It's
pushed
true.
into
Yeah,
one.
there's fewer categories, so there's more people competing for the same thing.
Yeah, because when you watch the Oscars now, what is it, like 4 or 5 hours long, and the first like 10 awards?
Oh, yeah. If we can cut down run times for award ceremonies, then yes, I'm all for it.
Oh my gosh, I really hope this becomes a thing. But that should be enough talk for Real Talk. If you guys want to add to anything we said on the show, please join the conversation on Facebook or Twitter, and we'll get back to you. We'll have a little discussion going.
Sure. And before you go on, you said it earlier, but it sounded really fun to say, so I'm going to say it. It's time for Real Talk. All right, you can go on now.
I'm sorry, but Real Talk's actually over, but it's actually time for Tech Talk. But normally we would have a stinger going on, but since I'm actually new to the boards and I'm like looking at the screen, I can't find where the clip is, so I can't really play it. So just imagine the jingle is there. Imagine that little.
What does it sound like? Can you sing it?
I can't really sing it because it's really electronic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
I'm so sorry. Maybe
It's
next
time
time. Yeah.
For Tech Talk.
But okay, last week I actually talked about something that was happening, and it was Google I/O, and this is like a huge festival that happens every year, and it's basically Google putting in like it's a developers conference where they talk about their latest products, their latest programs, and if you don't know what I/O stands for, it's input output. So at this year's festival, if you guys haven't actually like watched it, because it's a 2-hour like keynote speech, and I don't know if you guys want to go through it. I'm going to go over the main parts. So the first one is Android O, and everyone's like expecting it to be Oreo because what other dessert is named after O?
Android O.
No, because like for N, I remember everyone was super excited. They're like, oh my god, Android Nutella, this is going to be great. And then when they like revealed the Android like statue, he was holding nougat, and you're like, what the heck?
Well, I think there'd be some copyright issues if it was Nutella. Isn't that like a...
No, but they've done other stuff before. They've done Android Kit Kat.
Oh, okay.
So you're like,
Yeah.
what happened to Nutella? Come on. But anyways, we'll just call it O for now, because last year I just kept saying Nutella until nougat happened, and I felt so dumb after. So Android O. I've talked about how they're adding the new picture-in-picture feature, but if you guys don't know, basically you're going to be able to go on YouTube, play your video, and then be like, hey, I need to take notes on this video, but I can't really like access my Word document. So now you can actually take that video, put it in the corner of your screen, open up your Word, and just type away. Or other stuff, like let's say you wanted to have your Messenger app along with your WhatsApp. And because I'm all over the place when I'm on my phone. I have Line Chat, I have WhatsApp, I have Discord, I have Facebook Chat, I have text messaging, and I'm just like so annoying to go flipping back and forth between all these messaging apps. So it's going to be great to have a picture-in-picture option. And alongside this, if you're like, okay, I don't really care about the new stuff, I'm really old-fashioned, I just want a phone that works.
What happened to the cord? Let's get a cord back.
So what happened to the cord? No, that's not what I'm talking about. The operating system, no cords. So a new thing they added is faster boot times, because I know like most of you are like, I don't turn off my phone because I don't want to wait 35 seconds for this thing to boot up. I just want to be able to turn it on, look at the time, because that's the first thing I always check the weather, and see if I have any notifications. So instead of that 35-second countdown, now it's only going to be around 10 seconds if you're with a Nexus or Pixel device. We haven't really gotten a chance to try with other devices because Android O is strictly for Google phones only, like Google manufactured phones. So later on when it gets distributed, we'll know, but that's already a huge improvement. That's 3 times faster.
Blows my mind. So I had my phone in my pocket earlier today.
Yeah.
And I guess just the way I was sitting, squished the button and it turned off. And then I had to turn it back on, and it took an eternity. I was so angry.
Oh my gosh. But other than the speedy like turn on and the picture-in-picture, the thing that bugged me, this is not something that should bug me, but it's the emoji. They're no longer going to be blob emojis. They're switching over to the classic like circular emojis. And I'm like, no, that's the Android like thing. I like the Android like blobs. They're so cute. And then other than that, there's also something they're stealing from Apple where your apps can be long pressed to get like different options instead of opening up the app.
Oh, cool.
So that's really nice for Android O. moving on, we have Daydream. So if you don't know what Daydream is, that was their VR headset made for the Pixel, and it basically was this really nice, like, I think it was made of cloth, so it was supposed to be like premium material, because you're like, oh, it feels so nice.
Like, sorry, so it's a headset?
Yeah, you
So-
put your phone in, and you're in virtual reality.
Oh, okay, cool. So on the inside of your face, there's a nice feather soft cloth.
Oh, no, it's on the outside, actually,
okay.
so it looks like a premium
All right,
built
I'm just having a hard
device.
time picturing it, but please go on.
But the thing about this Daydream thing is that it's before this all happened, when Pixel was released, Google was like, hey, we released our first phone ever that wasn't in collaboration with anyone. We want to have exclusive features like Google Assistant and this. And now they're like, never mind. We want to be Android again. We want to give to everyone. So now the Daydream VR headsets are going to be also like created by LG and... Sorry, they're going to be able to be used on LG and Samsung devices. And also, Google's not going to be the only one creating them. HTC and Lenovo have also like joined in to be like, hey, we want to make the VR headsets too for you guys. So that's really cool. They're like joining up. And I was talking about Android Assistant, and I just have to, sorry, not Android Assistant, Google Assistant. And this part blew my mind because Pixel was supposed to be like, hey, we have Android Assistant, Google Assistant. Sorry, I keep saying that. And it's supposed to be like our premium feature, but now they're like, hey, iOS people, I heard you guys want it. So now Google Assistant is now available on the iOS market, and it's not only for Pixel devices on Android anymore. Every Android device can have it. So it's great. They're moving forward, and they're actually adding something that Bixby had, if you know what Bixby is.
I do not.
Oh, okay. Well, Bixby is this... it's basically the new S voice. It's Samsung's version of Siri.
Oh, I see.
So they had this thing where you're like, oh no, I'm lost. Where am I? You pull up your camera, you take a picture of a building, and it'll be like, oh, you're in San Francisco. That's the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh, does it search for it on like Google Street View?
Like on images and stuff.
Right,
And like,
okay.
It like can track stuff. So Google was like, hey, we should develop Google Lens, because Google Lens was this thing they've made like 5 years ago, and they've been like working on it ever since. But now the new Google Lens has been like fully upgraded to a way that you can like just go into the street and be like, Google Assistant, and you just like pull up your phone and you like point it at a restaurant. You're like, what does this have? And then it'll be like, oh, that's Joe's Shawarma. They're like, great. This is their menu. These are the reviews, and they're open from this time to this time. And you didn't have to type anything. You just have to point your camera at it. And it's just stuff like that. And not only because that's not too impressive, because you're like, oh, it probably just like was able to detect the words.
No, my thumbs could use a break. I'm very pleased.
No, but because of this, you're like, oh, it could have just like found the words and it just like Googled it really quick. But no, the Google Lens actually goes further than that. You can like point it at a flower in the forest and you'll be like, what is this? And Google will actually like look it up and be like, oh, that's the trillium. You live in Ontario. You should know what the Ontario trillium flower is.
My mom would love that. She was
like
actually
pointing.
just talking about she wishes there was an app where she could like just point her phone at a tree and it would tell her what kind of tree it is.
Well, this has already been released.
Holy cow.
We're in the future.
All right,
honestly.
well, I'm going to call my mom after this.
That's just going further. And that's not where Google Lens stops. It goes even further. So if you use Google Photos, it's your photo app basically where all your photos are stored. Google Lens can track all your friends in your pictures, make an album of those friends, and be like, hey, you want to send this to Joe? He was in this. Maybe he wants to see his own photos. It's kind of creepy, but also really cool at the same time because it's making albums for you. But I'm going to keep going on about this. So I'll continue this tech talk after the break.
Urban Definition on CHHA 1610. This is Urban Definition.
So before the break, well, actually, welcome back, everyone. But before the break, we were going through Tech Talk, and I was talking about how Google Photos will be linked up with Google Lens, allowing you to have your photos automatically organized and sent to your friends if it recognizes who the person is, which is kind of creepy, but awesome, also really cool, right?
Heck yes.
So, but that's not where it stops. So I remember you were like talking about how your mom wanted the Google Lens to like find out what tree is in your forest or whatever.
That's true. My family's weirdly into trees. I was walking like in the forest with my brother once, and he just was like quizzing me. He's like, "What is that?" I was like, "I don't know, spruce."
I honestly don't know that many trees, but most of the ones in Canada, there's not that many, so I kind of recognize them. But Google will help me out, apparently.
Thank goodness for that.
It's like how back then our teachers in math class would be like, you need to learn math. It's not like you're going to always have a calculator on you. But look at us now. We have a calculator on us all the time.
I have several calculators on my person
right
now.
So now everyone's going to be like, oh, you need to learn about the environment. Well, no, now you have Google to tell you about the environment.
That's right. Google can do my work for me.
Right? Google's taking over the world. But the thing I was trying to get into with this whole plant thing is that Google Lens in Google Photos, it's not only going to be able to organize your photos by your friends, it can also track what your picture is about. So if you were taking like lots of skylines, it'll be like, hey, here's a skyline album. Or if you were taking lots of pictures of flowers, here's a flower album over the years. And just really cool stuff like that. But it doesn't end there, because you're like, wait, how can it get even better than this? Now, let's say you were at a baseball game, because this is the example they gave during the keynote. Then they were like, so you're behind the fence where your son is about to like bat the ball, and there's a fence in the way. So you take the picture and you're like, I can barely see him. Google will now automatically Photoshop your photo for you and get rid of that fence in front of you. So if that works and this actually happens, I'm going to be super impressed, because that just saves so much time afterwards. I hate having to like crop out stuff. Like,
that's actually insane. So like it knows that there's a fence or what?
Yeah, because it'll know that there's a human behind there. So it'll be like, oh, I should probably help you get to that human there. And it'll just like get rid of all obstructions in the way. Which is so cool. I think that's like super impressive. But I should really move on away from Google Lens, because I've been talking about it for like a good 5 minutes. I'm just too excited about it. So the next thing I want to talk about is Google Jamboard. And this was actually really cool, because like in school growing up, in high school, we had these things called smart boards. And I thought they were so cool because they use like dry erase markers, but they're not actually dry erase markers. They're like digital ones. You're like, oh my God. When I was a kid, I was like, that'll save so much ink, because I was that kind of guy. Because I hated like going up to a marker board and being like, ugh, this marker's dead. Ugh, this one's dead too. This sucks. But this new Jamboard kind of thing is basically a giant whiteboard, and you can buy them for $6,000 US, but you don't have to. There's ways around, which I'll tell you in a sec. And basically on this board, it's able to connect with other people who have tablets or phones, and they can like go on to the cloud and be like, hey, I'm joining in on your whiteboard session. And you can all draw together using that board. And so let's say you have one person across the world and he's like trying to help you like invent something. He can start drawing and you'll start seeing it appear on the board, and you guys can start drawing and it'll start appearing. Or if you don't know how to draw, you can like look up images and put them there. You can also have like a video chat going on in the corner. It's just a really cool screen, basically. Really, really awesome. I'm so proud of Google for doing it, because having the ability to like draw on a whiteboard, getting all your ideas out there, having a full brainstorm done, and then it being automatically saved to cloud, that's all your work done.
That's actually the coolest one yet, I think.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm most into.
It's just great, but for the price of $6,000 for that one, I'll pass. But I like how you can use it on like tablets and such, because most people have a tablet.
Yeah,
so.
six stacks is a little steep.
And it's not just like 6 stacks, it's like US money. So you're like, oh, for Canadian, that sounds even worse. And the last thing from the Google I/O conference was Android Go. Well, the last interesting thing, honestly. And Android Go is this new operating system that they're developing that basically works for really low-end phones. So let's say you're not into that picture-in-picture feature and you just want a phone that actually works. You want it to go fast even though you can't afford the best phone on the market. Well, Android was like, hey, here's a phone without the frills. It's like a no-frills phone. And I thought that was pretty cool. But let's move away from Google and talk about the last thing, because Google's competitor is obviously Microsoft and Apple. But Apple didn't really release anything that interested me, but Microsoft did. And it's Microsoft Surface Pro. Not the Surface Pro 5 that everyone is expecting. They were just like, no number this time. Just Surface Pro. And you're like, what's so special about it? Because if you looked at them side by side, they look identical, like the 4 and the 5 in quotations, because it's not actually called 5. And they were like, the fan is quieter. Not the operating system. The processor is better, and the RAM is better. And it also includes the knob. If you've seen the knob on the new Microsoft Studios, those really big like screens that you can draw on, the knob basically allows you to put the knob on the screen in, let's say, Photoshop. And if you turn the knob, you'd have like your paint palette in your other hand. And that's really impressive because I always hate having to like go through it and like look for the color I need and then close the color panel and then start drawing. And then I'm like, oh, what color was I using last? Having a knob is just useful. But the only thing that bugs me is that it's a Surface. And I don't know about you guys, but if you've ever used the Surface, the entire design doesn't make sense. Like, the fans are put in the wrong place on the 4. I haven't tested the 5 yet. But on the 4, let's say you were having a video chat with someone and the fans turn on, the microphone is on top of the fans. So your other person, the person you're talking to, will only hear fans. So you're like, why? Why is this happening? And it'll start like overheating because you're like trying to turn off the fan so you can actually have a conversation. It's just, I just hope they fix all these issues.
It's just poor design.
Right? Come on, Microsoft, step up your game. Hopefully this new version is a lot better, but one downside already that I really dislike is now that you have to pay for the pen now. Like, what are you doing? You have to pay $100 US for the pen. You already had to pay for the $100 keyboard. So you're like, what's the point of this? I'm buying a really expensive tablet because usually the tablet itself goes for like 1,500 Canadian. So then you have to add extra accessories, and you're just like, is this really worth my money? Should I just like forget it and get a Cintiq for like $900? Like, what's going on? But yeah, that'll wrap up Tech Talk for you.
That was a good Tech Talk.
Thanks, man. So let's move on to our next segment that Zayn normally does, but since Zayn's not here, Kevin, what's going on in Toronto this weekend?
Oh, hey, yeah. Let's talk about this. What's going on this weekend? And if we are running out of time, just cut me off. So, actually starting tomorrow, May 25th, and going on till June 4th, there's the Inside Out Film Festival, and that's an LGBT film festival. So it's going on for a number of days. There's obviously various dates and times and venues at the Tiff Bell Lightbox, Buddies and Bad Times Theater, Gladstone Hotel, all over the city. So if you are interested in film, that might be a good thing to check out. On Saturday, there is Doors Open Toronto, which it's actually on Saturday and Sunday. So that's 150 buildings across the city. So all kinds of buildings that are public and are not so public that you see and you think, wow, I kind of want to poke my head in there and see what's going on. You can. So that's actually a really cool thing, just to explore some of the places that you walk by every day and maybe you don't think about so much. I think it's a really cool idea. Mm-hmm. And also on that Saturday, there is the CBC Music Festival.
Oh, I love that.
And that starts in the early afternoon. So doors are at 1:30, first show's at 2:15, and that's at TD Echo Beach. Mm-hmm. It sounds like a lot of fun. There's the headlining acts are Serena Ryder and Walk Off the Earth, but there's also Scott Hellman, Bobby Bazzini, Austra Bros, William Price, Sarah Slean, Ralph Valley, and the list goes on. So I've actually been. You and I have been.
Yeah, we've
actually.
been.
Yeah, we
it's
went
a great experience
together a couple years ago.
Yeah, I love Echo Beach. It's like the greatest venue ever.
It
I
is.
Just love the
Yeah,
stand.
it's fun. If it's a nice day, there's nowhere else you'd rather be. So I've been there, and I've went the following year as well. It's a fun time.
Are you going to go this year?
I think I'm going to skip it this year.
Aww.
Yeah, and then I'll just add on Sunday. It's the first Kensington Pedestrian Sunday, so no cars allowed in Kensington Market, just pedestrian. So that's all. That symbols the start of the summer.
That's awesome, and thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Join us next week for another episode of Urban Definition.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Urban Definition.